It's the SWP Disciple checking in. Man, look at the amount of people at my favorite big box store, Costco. It took me like 40 minutes to redeem my end of year bottles. So I do this trick with saving. I redeem bottles. I would keep it until the end. Well, that would be ridiculous. I'd be here for hours if I waited until the end of the year. But every 3 months, I redeem my bottles down in the basement. My water bottles largely, other stuff too, but mostly water bottles. Like I said, I would keep it until the end of the year, but it would be probably a couple thousand bottles, which realistically you're only supposed to I shouldn't say realistically. The rule is, it's actually not realistic. The rule is that you and again, you can see the parking lot is just jam-packed, and getting in and out is ridiculous. When I got off the highway, there was like a long line back out to I won't exaggerate and say almost to the Massachusetts border, but it was like well off the ramp and basically back onto the highway. And a lot of the people are people coming here to Costco. I don't really know, especially with as much as people complain about grocery prices, why there's so many people like targeting just Costco on a Sunday. But be that as it may, here's a car that it actually has classic plates on there. You don't really see those too often anymore. The 350Z. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, so it's supposed to be 100 bottles at a time. Nobody does that. And of course, one machine, there's 3 machines, 3 redemption machines. One's that's I think all 3 do plastic, but there's 2 of them in particular that are important. Like one does plastic and glass, the other one does plastic and aluminum cans. And the one that was I think just plastic was down, so it's just 2 of them. And I must have there was like a significant line of people. Even one person even said it, like, damn, everybody's redeeming their cans and their bottles today. And pretty much everyone was like super slow. Now, I have like a system where I loosen the bags before I approach, and I use both hands. So one to take the bottle out of the bag, and then the other. It sounds like minor or menial, but it's actually super important, and it shaves seconds off of each redemption. So that's why I load the cart, which of course Costco is a wholesale, technically, big box store, so the carts are a lot bigger. But I usually load the cart. I would estimate, based on the amount that I get when I redeem, they do 10 cents now. It was 5 cents up until I think like the end of last year, and I was pleasantly surprised. So I can have half the bottles and get the same amount of money. But I usually load the cart. So before, I would get maybe about $25-$30. So whatever that breaks down, 20 times 25, whatever that is. What is that? Like about 500 or so bottles. So now, I mean, I drink at the same rate, not alcohol, but like water or whatever. My cousin, who, we all kind of piece together, we do the immigrant thing and help out our parents, right? My mom and my aunt, and chip in. So my cousin, my middle cousin, he bought 2 40-pack bottles of the unredeemable Costco brand bottles, what is it, Kirkland, that have the red bars on them, so you can't redeem them. All you can do is just throw them in the blue recycling bin. So fourth quarter for me wasn't as much as it could have been, but I still got 3 tickets that, I don't know, I think they totaled about $35. Of course, these are 10 cents each, so it's less than it appears. But in any event, when I save all my stubs, because each quarter, sorry I'm boring you with this, but I'm going somewhere. So each quarter, I usually get between $45 and $50. So in other words, about $200 is the target at the end of the year. And then I'll throw it into my brokerage account or whatever. This year will be somewhat less, maybe 180 or so. I'll see when I add it all together when I get home. And because it's through my schedule off, I'm not going to be able to catch my cousin with with my nephews. He usually comes by the house after church, but because this took so long, I think he'll be gone by the time I get home. But anyway, I do little sneaky things to save. So I've got 15 bank accounts. Actually, the other thing I got to do today is change my oil. I'm 1,000 miles over. You can see that it's 109,444, and I'm at click right by it. 110,531. So about 1,100 miles over. But of course, as you know, 3,000 mile intervals for changing oil is really like a marketing scheme by Jiffy Lube, like started like 50 years ago. Oh, I didn't even notice that. Focus RS. I still like those, even though they've kind of fallen out of favor. Always got like the rally mud flaps on there. They've kind of fallen out of favor with a lot of the auto riders at first. Probably because of like the rally resurgence or hype at the time back in 2016-17 with the Type R and the Stradale Cupra and Golf R and Civic Type R, that is, earlier. And I'm missing one. Oh, of course, the WRX STI, and at the time the Evo was just phasing out. That was like the golden age of hot hatches, if you will, and you know that was the most powerful of them. But I guess seating position, the seats aren't great. Fuel economy is kind of bad for what it's supposed to be, because the whole point of a hot hatch is that it does a little bit of everything, right? It's a little bit of a sports car. It's a hatch, so you get like a lot of space. It seats 4 or 5 people comfortably, and it's efficient. But it was like kind of down on 2 of those things, right? So the comfort had a very hard suspension. The seats were a little bit too like high. There is a fix for it, but obviously it all adds up, and that was like one of the more expensive of those hot hatches. And then of course the fuel economy, you know, the others were pulling like, you know, low to mid 20s, and that was pulling like maybe 18 miles a gallon. I still like it a lot though. That nitrous blue is beautiful too. Anyway, yeah, so you know how banks will do those offers to get deposits, like if you deposit $1,000 or $1,500 within anywhere from like 60 to 90 days, then they give you like a deposit bonus of like anywhere from 2 to 4. I've seen as much as $400. So I usually do like 2 of those a year or so. I think this year I did like 3 of them. And so as a consequence, I have like 15 checking accounts, maybe more. So what I do is I like micro contribute. So, you know, I have like my regular, like, you know, TD Bank, which is very ubiquitous around here, and of course in like Ontario and, you know, Canada area, because it's Toronto Dominion Bank. But it's, as you know, financial companies and banks, they keep acquiring each other. Good old Massachusetts. And I had the checking account that I have now is like my bank account that I've had since I was like 12 or 13 years old. But they, you know, it used to be SIS, Springfield Institution for Savings, and then First Mass, and then I think there's something in between, and then finally TD Bank. So I've had it for like 33, 34 years or so. Just, you know, different names. So anyway, yeah, I have like 15 bank accounts. So that's my main like bill pay account, and then I have like my Bank of America for like my phone bill, and then when I had a car note, I had like my local like credit union, Freedom, and then a bunch of others, like many others. And like, you know, I just micro contribute like $10 here, $15 there, $6 there, whatever. So then what I do, because I don't use them, at the end of the year I drain them, so that way I can kind of pool the money together. And it's cool because like I don't notice it during the year. You know, you don't notice like $10, $15 or whatever being withdrawn from your account. And I just gather them. I actually still have 3 more left, but I'm gonna leave them. Like my Wells Fargo, you gotta leave like $500 in there, or you get hit with like an $8 a month service charge, which is not a big deal, but I don't need it, so might as well leave it there. And it's about $2,000. So that, with my, like, you know, my requisite last 2 weeks of the year working in the optical shop, that's gonna be a nice size check in a couple weeks. So that's like my way of kind of like paying myself a bonus, where I get like, you know, a nice, you know, $4,000 or so at the end of the year, with like no real additional effort. Not sure what I'm going to use that on, and I still got my gift cards from like birthdays and Christmases or whatever. Even though my mom doesn't like doing that, she bought me some Uggs for Christmas as like part of my Christmas present, which I didn't ask for, but I do like them. I have no idea where that lady gets her money from, because she's on a fixed income and on Social Security, so she probably has a side hustle or something that I don't know about. But yeah, so anyway, heading back home. I may either lay down again if my cousin and nephews aren't there, or I'll just go to the gym and then knock it out. I'm so deflated because, like, you know, the Chiefs, you know, we're not making the playoffs. Mahomes is injured. I wonder what they would have done if we had lost the game anyway last week. even though it looked like we were driving and we were going to at least get the field goal to get into overtime until, Mahomes blew out his ACL and I think MCL, so he probably won't be back until like the middle of next season. It sucks that it was like late in the season, but my point is I have like no vested interest remaining in the NFL season, so that kind of takes a little air out of the balloon. For my Sundays, though, weekends are still enjoyable. I have an important like maintenance procedure, if you will, in terms of like personal health. You can probably guess, given my age, 46, what that is, and it's on New Year's Eve. So the next few days are going to suck as I have to essentially go on a water diet. I can maybe have some bone broth, but basically go on on like a liquid diet for the next like 3-4 days. So that's going to suck. No Skittles, no Jolly Ranchers, blah blah blah. First world problems. But yeah, year is winding down. Somber year. It's been a somber run of years. New Year's Eve, I'm just gonna, go to church like I normally do. We'll probably get out like just after midnight, and then we like fellowship in the basement area for a little bit. But I'm not sure I'm gonna do, because usually I go to like this piano bar afterwards, or martini bar rather. There is a piano bar that's right near there. Maybe that's where I'll go. And then afterwards, I just kind of go by myself, sip on my Diet Coke or my Red Bull, and then just kind of reflect on the year that was. That's probably what it'll be, unless something like, falls in my lap. I may be going on a cruise in March. I'm not sure. I've never been on one. I have an invite. I actually have a couple invites on cruises. I can't do both of them. I got to do a better job, though, of using my PTO. I had to, like, just waste, like, almost 4 days of PTO at the end of the year because I, like, misinterpreted my hours. And here in Massachusetts, you can only carry over 5 days. In my company, you can't sell the days back, so they just kind of went into the ether. But I do get plenty of days. I get 30 PTO days, so I do plan to pace myself a little better next year so that way I actually utilize all of them. And so I'll probably be going on my first cruise in a couple months. I'll let you know how that goes. I'm not keen about them. I just feel like there's a lot that can go wrong. But I guess Carnival is like the hood cruise that you're like not supposed to go on. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much it costs and whatever else. But yeah, just kind of saying hello, showing you, even as, so the stats are, even as like the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, have been, because of the administration, like slowly trickling out information or just straight up like obfuscating the information. We may be headed to a recession, and in fact, some analysts are saying that about like 80% of the country may already be in a recession, and we're just kind of, it's just being disguised by, the super wealthy because of like, AI and whatever else. And, wages have become kind of stratified where there's like people that are earning a lot and then others that are like, barely middle class and below. And I think we just crossed an important meridian or line where for the first time in who knows how long, or perhaps even Western human history, or certainly U.S. history, the top 1% has more wealth than all of the middle class, which just on paper sounds insane to me. I'd have to look at the numbers and see if that makes sense, because like obviously some lines are sensationalized, and if we go back to the days of like George Washington, we probably would discover that the top 1% has more or less always had a plurality of the wealth in the country, or probably more or less equal to the entire middle class, but we just might have like passed the technicality of the last cent to officially say that that's the case. So I'd have to look that up to see what it was historically, but I do have to say on paper that does sounds pretty crazy. I'm not sure what's going to happen. My sense is that Mamdani in New York City is probably going to be like the petri dish for the rest of the country. Now, obviously, a city like New York would be much more open or amenable to quasi-socialism or democratic socialism compared to the rest of the country, because obviously there's like vast swaths of like the Midwest, for instance, and the South, that are like anti that are like, you know, very rural and anti-socialism, which is kind of ironic because, like, you know, a lot of them are farmers, and that's like one of the most like socialist sectors that you can think of. It's just that people don't recognize it as such. As we speak, Trump is like dangling the carrot of sending like $12 billion to farmers. You know, you can put in there parenthetically white farmers, because we know Biden, like last year, was trying to send like $5 billion to black farmers, and the Republicans beat it down to $3.5 billion, which like nobody knows, and you know, the left gets like no credit for it. But I guess that's like, you know, that's par for the course. All right, so my cousin's definitely not here. Let's see if I can do this reversal while holding my phone. I mean, I pretty much said what I needed to say. I just kind of wanted to show you Costco and I guess the juxtaposition. I know that Costco is the one retail sector that's like super resilient to it. I don't want to say recession proof, but it would be resilient to recession, just because people like the way that they treat their employees, right? So even if things were tight, people would still want to support Costco. They're the one, you know, liberal, openly liberal, big business out there. Even the founder, who's like, you know, he's wealthy in his own right, but he's not worth as much as he could be, because he intentionally paid his workers, you know, basically distributed the funds fairly. So he's like, I mean, he might be a billionaire, but like, you know, barely so, when he could be like into the tens of billions. I remember that interview on 60 Minutes with him years ago. Right, let me straighten out a little bit more. And that is admirable. I guess Starbucks is the other one. You know, some people call it communist coffee. That's openly liberal, but they are falling on hard times as a result of like a soft boycott, if you will. But all right, so let's see, what is the damage. All right, so these are the stubs you redeem them, and I have a bunch more. All right, so 1350, 750, so that's what is that, 2120, and then 690, so 2720. So I guess that's 2810 if my public school math serves me. $28.10. I didn't add up the previous 3 quarters, but this is my envelope. Of course, I'm anal retentive, so I like catalog everything to some degree. I think I was like approaching like $150 or right around there. So I mean, you get the idea. So 4 times 50, 200 is the target. I fell short of that, but some of that is just because, as much as I tell my my mom, my aunt, and my cousins to only buy like the water bottles that are redeemable, and they clearly have like the red bar like around the UPC on the back, but they just kind of buy whatever's on sale, which, I mean, maybe that's a smart play, right? So you probably save more on the sale than you do on the redemption. But yeah, so it looks like I'm probably right around that 180 mark, you know, like $28, so like 178 or so. I'm grateful, you know, as I always say, in all things give thanks, right? So anyway, on with the rest of the day. It's 2:18 now. I set out around, I don't know, like 12:30 or so. So that took much longer than it needed to, but that's just because of the long lines. Like about 40 minutes of that was just waiting, essentially. But anyway, the Lord is faithful. Stay with me. God bless.